Liebelt. Jump on in. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Monday morning. Woohoo! Very exciting. How are you? How was your 4th of July weekend, you guys? Did you have fun? How did you do? I know I've been getting some texts from people saying, maybe you kind of tanked a little bit. Maybe the 4th of July weekend was a little difficult. I don't know. I'm just saying. How did you do? I would love to know. Let me know where you're coming in on the replay. Today, I'm going to go back to the basics today. Back to the basics. Why does insulin resistance keep you fat? Why? If you understand why, then nothing is a sacrifice. It's just a trade-out. Wouldn't that be nice? If you didn't feel like you were sacrificing everything in the entire universe because you literally realized you were just going to trade things out. Good morning. Good morning. Who am I missing on Instagram? Good morning, you guys. It's good to see you. We're back at it, right? What's the date today? The 8th of July. So we've already done like our festivities. We've already had all of our family time and all of our barbecues and all of that good stuff. And today at 2:00 Central Standard Time, in the Facebook group, Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women, I'm going live and I'm doing my 5-day challenge. And this is our 14th one. 14th one that we've done. Every single month, I do a 5-day challenge at the beginning of the month. And the reason why is because if you can set yourself up for success at the beginning of a month, and have victory in that month, and then we do it again the next month, you can string these months together and have a track to run on. One of the things that I do hear from you a lot is you appreciate the support and the encouragement that comes with the conversation of insulin resistance and targeted supplements and food ingredient trade-outs, etc. And so inside of the group, that's what we do. I want you to be equipped. I want you to have tools in your toolbox. And so much of it is just straight out of my own box of experience, being Italian, being raised by a type 2 insulin-dependent dad who died at 63, and I was only 30 at the time. So I say all of that just to say that I had to navigate my own waters. And I was insulin resistant in my 20s and didn't do anything about it until I was in my 40s. And then I had to reverse engineer why certain things I did actually worked. Like, what? Well, I had never taken a supplement before. Supplements were like ibuprofen and the banned weight loss med from Walmart. So I was a total sugar addict. And so I know that if I can just share how I did it and help other people get like the same results, like that's the goal. So 14th challenge coming up today, 2:00 Central Standard Time in the group. Kristen, Pink Hearts Kristen is in my chat today. Good morning, Kristen. Oh, I'm going to get something off of that on Instagram. Maybe sometimes it'll give me hearts. There you go. See hearts on Instagram. That's so awesome. Okay. 2:00 Central Standard Time, Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women. Today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll do a full week. I'll take you into my pantry. I'll take you into my refrigerator. I clean it once a month for you all. We'll do like a recipe, but mostly what I really want is I want you to understand, and I'll do a little bit of that today. Why? Why does insulin resistance keep us fat? What if it's actually not our fault? Meaning, and listen, I'm a high personal responsibility person. But what if we've just never been given this information before so that we could change out the lenses as to how we were viewing our weight loss? I know I was never told that. I mean, it's not anybody else's fault, but I never looked up or looked for the fact that insulin was a hormone. Did you guys know that? Did you know insulin was a hormone? Maybe before, like having live videos where people can talk to you about it. Like, how old was I? I was this many years old when I found out that insulin was a hormone, and that it makes perfect sense that in the middle of perimenopause, wham, everything goes upside down. And so does insulin because it's a hormone, and cortisol. I mean, all of these things. Okay. So anyway, hey, movie mama, good morning. Thank you so much for all of the likes. You're amazing. I so appreciate you guys. You have no idea. You only knew it was a shot. When did you find out that insulin was a hormone and not just a shot? Like what you're talking, because I know what you're talking about. My dad was insulin dependent. So he gave himself shots in his belly twice a day. I grew up as a little girl where in the dresser of their bedroom, I mean, I like it was yesterday, I close my eyes and I'm right there. I'm transported. And in the drawer, pull out the drawer, there's a Ziploc baggie filled with hypodermic needles because that was his life, right? But then his life, because of that, ended in a lot of heart procedures, heart surgeries, and then eventually kidney dialysis and death at 63. So it's not a great trajectory, for sure. And I feel like that's a big reason why, I mean, obviously I talk about the weight loss aspect all the time because that is the most connected that we have. Like that's a connection for us, especially as women. We're like, what the hell going on? What's going on? What's going on? Like, what the heck? I don't understand. Why can't I lose weight? What is going on? I can't I used to count points. I used to be in a calorie deficit. I used to be able to work out in the gym. What the heck is going on? And we can't figure it out. And nobody's telling us these pieces. So anyway, I would love to know though. Anyway, that would be great. And so here we go. We're going to chat about why insulin resistance keeps us fat. This is actually one of my favorite of all the topics that I do on my lives. Getting down to the basics makes me the most happy because I feel like if there is a click in your brain, then all of a sudden things don't feel so challenging and laborious anymore. You have a reason to shift things and to find an alternative because you still get to be a total foodie. You still get to enjoy the foods that you love. That's what held me back for the longest time. If I had to say the number one thing that held me back from dealing with anything, it was absolutely the fact that I thought I had to give up being a foodie because I'm Italian. Here we go. Okay, so here we go. Insulin resistance can make it difficult to lose weight due to its impact on several metabolic processes and hormonal signals in the body. And here's how it's interfering with weight loss. So number one, increased insulin levels. So we all know that, like maybe we know that. Insulin is a hormone that is released by your pancreas that is working really hard to get your body to burn glucose for fuel. Like if you had an outdoor wood stove, like I had an outdoor wood stove on my 20 acres, we raised our kids on a hobby farm north of the cities. I'm in Minnesota, and we had an outdoor wood stove. And so we'd have to fuel the outdoor wood stove. Well, if there was a machine which we didn't have, but if there was a machine, compressor eating window helps blood sugar regulation, and I have been fixing. Yes, absolutely. That can help a lot. So if you had a machine that actually loaded the wood stove with wood, that would be what insulin is doing. It's trying to load the glucose in your system. Everything that you eat turns to glucose. Obviously, some spikes your sugars more than others, but it's trying to load the glucose into your cell. And when you become resistant, it can't do that anymore. Your cell says no, and it doesn't do that anymore. Okay. So, therefore you continue your pancreas doesn't give up, doesn't go, oh, well, too bad. I tried. No, your pancreas goes, I am like fearfully and wonderfully made, and I'm going to make more insulin and more insulin and more insulin. I just must not have made enough. I just need more. So it's going to keep on giving you insulin. Okay. So now it can't get it into the cell. Your fuel is now not in your cell. So now you're so tired. You're so exhausted because you didn't get fuel. But then to top it off, it's a fat storing hormone. So when you have increased insulin levels, it helps regulate your blood sugar levels by facilitating the uptake of glucose. This is just a fancier way of saying it, into the cells for energy. When cells become resistant to insulin, the pancreas produces more insulin to compensate. This is why it then makes you fat. High insulin levels promote the storage of fat, especially in the abdominal area. Belly fat, right? Insulin inhibits, listen to this, insulin inhibits the breakdown of fat and encourages the storage of glucose as fat. So it's doing two things. It's stopping you from breaking down fat, and it's encouraging turning the extra glucose that couldn't get into your cell into fat. I mean, that's just frustrating, right? That's just frustrating. So, okay, hold on. I thought I missed something. Nope, I'm good. All right. Number 2, impaired fat breakdown. Let's talk about that for a second. Insulin resistance keeps insulin levels elevated. So when your insulin and or your sugars are high, you can't lose weight, which inhibits lipolysis, the process of breaking down stored fat into fatty acids that can be used for energy. So it's inhibiting that. With impaired fat breakdown, the body relies more on glucose for energy, which can limit fat loss. So if it's always using glucose for fuel, if you're always filling your wood stove with pine and it burns hot and fast because it's preferred, give it to me hot and fast. I just want hot and fast. And you're just going to burn all the sugar. It never gets to your fat. That's what your body's doing. It's never getting to the burning of fat. That's what can be so frustrating. And you're wondering why there is this connection between eating foods that spike your sugars, even if it's not a lot, even if you're like, well, this can't be that bad. It's all about balance, right? Like this is the conversation that we have because of society. It's all about balance. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then you've got people going, come on, you can't be that restrictive. That's not sustainable. That's what we're going to hear. That's not sustainable. BS. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because all you're doing is you are changing out. This is why I'm going to go like in the challenge this week in the Facebook group, ditch insulin resistance for women. I'll go into my pantry and I'll go into my fridge because all it is, and I explained this, I think it was on Friday, there's just 2 different ways to build a pantry, but they can both make the same food. Does that make sense? Do you get that? My pantry just looks different, but I can still make the same food. It's just using some different ingredients that don't spike my sugars, calling on more insulin, storing more fat, or only burning sugar for fuel because I actually want to burn my fat. I want to get to the fat that appeared on my arms. I want to get to the fat that was on the inside of my knees. I've gone from a 2X down to a large in my 50s, by the way. That's just, I always forget to say that. But this is a hormonal conversation. This is not a calorie in, calorie out conversation. So not all things are the same and equal when you're insulin resistant. They're not the same. Okay. So in the Facebook group, I teach grain-free, sugar-free, but you want your body to actually start to burn fat. So number 3, increased hunger and craving. So this is why you're hungry all the time. Okay. So it's a kind of, like I said, what if it's not your fault? And if we could just understand some of the biological processes, we could make so much more gain in what we're trying to accomplish, right? So appetite regulation, insulin resistance can disrupt signals. It's literally disrupting the signals inside of your body, okay? Related to hunger and satiety. High insulin levels can increase hunger and cravings, particularly for carbohydrates and sugary foods. And the reason why is because it's looking for quick energy. It's looking for fast energy. It's like, where can I get I need some pine wood right now. Don't give me that oak. I want pine right now. That's what it's thinking it needs. Leptin resistance. Insulin resistance is often associated with leptin resistance. Leptin is a hormone, so another hormone enters the scene. We've already got insulin. We talk about cortisol a lot. Now enters leptin, which is another hormone. It's a hormone that signals fullness to the brain. Okay, so your body was designed like a race car. Okay, but we just put bad fuel into it for a long, long time. All right. So now the inner system isn't working, but we can get it back on track before this goes so south that you have issues with, like my father, heart disease, heart surgeries, kidney dialysis. We can turn this back quicker before it gets to that level. When leptin resistance occurs, the brain doesn't receive the signal to stop eating. So what if it's not your fault? And again, I'm huge on personal responsibility, but what if you could help turn the switch on a couple of things and make this process easier to turn back, leading to overeating and weight gain? Number 4, altered energy expenditure. I would like to know, like, who has heard that insulin was a hormone, but now who has heard that leptin is a hormone, and if it's interrupted, it's interrupting the signal to your brain. Oh, Anne, good to see you. Enjoy your morning. Enjoy your morning, 2:00 Central Standard Time in the group for the Ditch Insulin Resistance 5-day challenge. Your brain never gets the message, right? But I'm telling you, you guys, this can be turned back. I'm like the poster child of somebody who was such a major sugar addict. Like Trader Joe's salt and pepper kettle chips. And then Milk Duds. Like, just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Because you're just wanting that quick fix, and you're craving carbohydrates. Okay, I'll tell you what I did here in just a minute. Leptin is a first. I've always had a problem stopping eating was full. Yeah, I know. It's such a stinker. Altered energy expenditure, metabolic rate. Insulin resistance can affect the basal metabolic rate, BMR, potentially lowering the amount of energy the body burns at rest. A lower BMR means fewer calories are burned, making weight loss more challenging. And then the conversation is thermogenesis. Thermogenesis means that you're burning, well, I'll just read it here. Insulin resistance can impair the process of thermogenesis, where the body burns calories to produce heat. Reduced thermogenesis can lead to decreased calorie expenditure. And that's why, so if you're in my group, you know, I basically teach whole food keto. And when you eat meat, like if you eat beef, it is a highly thermogenic food. So it can raise your thermogenesis. It can raise what your body has to do to process. And therefore you expend more calories eating animal protein than any other protein. That's just a FYI. And the 5th one is hormonal imbalance. We just got done talking about some of it. Insulin resistance is often associated with elevated cortisol levels. Cortisol, a stress hormone that can promote fat storage, particularly in the abdominal area. Adiponectin. Insulin resistance can decrease levels of adiponectin, a hormone that enhances fat burning and improves insulin sensitivity. Lower adiponectin levels can make it hard to lose weight. That's fascinating. That's very fascinating. Number 6 is chronic inflammation. We talk about this a lot. And I'll tell you about like different things that people add to cart so that you can understand how to help with inflammation and cortisol, etc. Insulin resistance is linked to chronic low-grade inflammation. Inflammation is a big piece of this puzzle, and it's very frustrating. It's just very, very frustrating. It can interfere with your metabolic processes and exacerbate weight gain and making weight loss more difficult. And then the last one is impaired glucose utilization. Insulin resistance causes cells to be less efficient at using glucose for energy, leading to higher blood glucose levels. Excess glucose can be converted to fat and stored, and we know that already. And it just impedes weight loss then in the end. And so when you're not able to use the glucose for energy, it just turns it into fat. And that is so frustrating. Good morning, Anna. Good morning. Good to see you. Good to see you. And so when I'm talking a lot about, like, for instance, when we go into the group and I'm talking about being grain-free, sugar-free, the reason why is because when you are insulin resistant, grains spike your sugars way too high. It's just way too much. And so you then are living on your hamster wheel. And that is so, so frustrating. It's so frustrating. I'm so sorry, Stephanie. I know. And I talk fast too, don't I? Good morning, Suzette. Good to see you. Everybody's in the house this morning, Monday morning after the 4th of July. That is so exciting. I love that very, very much. So what can you possibly do about the fact that insulin resistance is keeping you fat? Like it's impairing so many functions inside of you. And if we don't know that, then we stay in this like land of what is wrong with me, or we resign ourselves. Has anybody ever been there before where you're thinking, for me, because of my Italian heritage culture, I thought maybe I was just like supposed to embrace the obesity piece of the puzzle, or, well, hey, type 2, it's genetic, right? Like, oh well, nothing I can do about it, just gonna show up one morning, I'm gonna wake up. And that is so not true. And I feel like that's maybe one of the reasons why I keep talking, because if people can understand that what got us into this issue is the overconsumption of carbohydrates over a long period of time, we can then reduce that and turn back. And because this is not a terminal diagnosis, I want everybody to have hope. I want everybody to think about that for just a second. Nobody has given you a terminal, well, I don't know that for sure, but in this conversation of insulin resistance, nobody has given you a terminal diagnosis. You can use, you can deal with nutritional deficiencies to start turning things back. You can use, like, remember when we were talking about like that, you're just so craving carbs, you're so craving sugar, you're so hungry all the time. You can actually use things to reduce that, and you don't have to always think in terms of injections. Those are some of my best customers because they don't want to use injections because they don't like the side effects. So what if God gave us some natural conversations to have, some natural, pieces of our puzzle? So what I talk about the most, and there's no question, you've heard me talk about this a million times. Good morning, Brenda. Good to see you. Oh my gosh. Brenda's on and everything. Now the party can start. Brenda is on. Good morning, Brenda. Is the trio. So the trio are 3 supplements that have 3 ingredients that help with insulin sensitivity. Now you have to understand that when I started over 10 years ago, I didn't know any of this, you guys. I didn't even know that insulin resistance was a conversation. I didn't even know that it was terminology. But I had a mother who was very steadfast in her bothering of me about my sugars because I was 30 when my dad died. And so I'm in my 40s and my weight is just increasing and increasing. And so she's like on me, just, Kirsten, do you even go to the doctor? Do you drink all the time? Are you peeing all the time? All of the signs of type 2, because that's what I lived with. And so I started supplementation, like super ignorant, didn't know anything, but I did it anyway because, well, it was kind of a pacification, to be really honest, pacifying her of, her worries and her whatever and her bugging me. I don't think she was super impressed. Let me just say that. I don't think she was super impressed with my answer, but it was the only thing that I knew to do in the moment. And the reason why is because being Italian, and maybe you don't struggle like I did. Maybe this isn't your story, and that's okay. But there's a whole cultural thing with being Italian where you really are taught to eat. Like you're taught that from a very young age. You just, mangia, you eat. And you don't, you show respect to the person who made this amazing food by eating. And so I never, ever thought in a million years that I was going to be able to actually like deal with the emotional connections to food. I pretty much was kind of like, like when somebody talked to me about supplementation, I pretty much kind of went, let's see, supplements, trade out my food and my Italian ways. Pretty much no, I'll do this. I mean, that literally was my brain in my upper 40s. That's how I started. So when everything started to work in my body, I had to ask myself, why did it work? All of that stuff. Then I did trade out my food ingredients. And that part of my journey, I love sharing with people because I want people to know that it's okay. It's okay for you to have the feelings of the attachment. It's okay for you to have the, it's okay for you to take a moment and ask yourself, where did this connection come from? Like, what is the childhood memory that it's connected to? I mean, we just celebrated with food. We mourned with food. Like everything was food. Food equaled love and fun and enjoyment and party and everything good. Well, that's not true But that's how you turned a funeral into something good. You used food for everything. That was my world. I think I missed. I definitely am. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't know what I said. You're saying you definitely are. You're saying that to me, but I don't know what I said because, there's a lot of words, right? But anyway, and so I basically then have been able to, because of my weird journey that took me, I tell you guys, like I had carb blocker in my pockets for 3 years, a good solid 3 years. It might have been 4, but let's just underestimate because I needed to mitigate my sugar spikes, right? So anyway, so the trio that I talk about all the time, you can see all of you love the way I say party. Is it because my R is so pronounced? Oh, being Italian and the food. Yes. No, you're good. You guys are so funny. Party. As opposed to maybe out east, potty. I say party. Yes. Yes. It's my R. I know. And in Minnesota, we really pronounce our O's. Minnesota. When we lived out in the Black Hills of South Dakota, I have born and raised in Minnesota. 8 years I spent out in the Black Hills of South Dakota. One state over. One state. And I was a waitress in my 20s at a truck stop. And I would have people stop in the truck stop and they would be like, oh, you're from New Jersey. Yeah, park the car. Right? That's hilarious. But people would say to me, you're from Minnesota, aren't you? I'm like, come on. Like, how do you know? Well, I can hear it on myself. I'm really not confused. It's okay. And then when I have Canadian customers. So if you're from Canada and you are ever wondering, I do have a very specific Canadian link for you. Okay. But when I talk to my Canadian people, like on the phone, wow, I can hear the Canadian accent, which is obviously a little bit different than a Minnesota accent, even though we're close to each other. Right. So, and Kristen's from New Jersey too. Woohoo. That's awesome. So if you're taking the trio and the glucose, it says take 3 times a day. What if you don't always eat 3 times a day? Suzette, that's a really good question. So let's just talk about the trio for a second so you guys can get information into your universes. The trio, 3 supplements that have 3 ingredients that help with insulin sensitivity. This is where all of the testimonies are coming from. And I actually thought ahead today to like screenshot some testimonies. And I pulled these out of my Instagram highlight bubble, my pink highlight bubble. Okay. Because don't take my word for it. Listen, I'm the one that avoided type 2 in my family. I don't have the data that everybody has that they can give me. So even though, yes, I started here, this is exactly where I started. I then went on to change out my ingredients. And in my 50s, after my cycle stopped, I went from a 2X down to a large. Okay. This is the journey that I teach inside of the Facebook group. Targeted supplements, ingredient trade outs. Ditch insulin resistance for women is the group. Okay. Having said that, if you want to be encouraged today, if you want to have a little hope that maybe if you viewed things through the lens of insulin resistance, you could get a different result. Like maybe this was the missing link in your world and you just didn't know it because nobody told you that insulin was a hormone or that insulin resistance keeps you fat or makes you gain more weight. Okay. Go to my Instagram, top of the page, pink highlight bubble, testimony. Okay. You read them for yourself. I'll read you just a couple. This was June. Nope, this was April 14th. I just popped in to see how she was feeling. And she said, I've lost 17 pounds. That's a really good, I love that when I get, I've lost 17 pounds. Oh, by the way, I'm like, well, that's fantastic. Thoughtful for you to check in. I'm amazed. I'm doing great. I've lost 8 pounds and I'm off of sugar, but still working on getting off of all grain. I really like, she's talking about the foods that she's liking, Greek yogurt, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for all your help. Happy Independence Day. So this was the day before the 4th of July. Hold on. And then Suzette, I'm going to answer your question here. The next one is loving the supplements, 10 pounds down. This was June 24th, and she had ordered on the 10th of June. Ordered on the 10th of June, on the 24th of June, and I don't make claims, you guys. There are no claims. I'm not claiming magic potions or anything. I'm just telling you that if this is an issue for you, if this is a potential issue for you, that you are insulin resistant, you can change the way your body's functioning from the inside out. Bring down your sugars and your insulin, change the way that your liver is functioning and dealing with your hormones, change your visceral belly fat metabolism. That's just all I'm saying. And then these are just actual texts that I get into my own phone. So ordered the 10th. On the 24th, she's telling me she's 10 pounds down. On the 18th of June, in the last couple of weeks, I've lost 9 pounds since June 7th. So that's awesome. And then she's still needing help with sleep. So because I can help people customize is really that point on that one. Here's another one. I'm down 5 pounds since starting the trio. I've also started walking. My cravings are so 4 O's diminished. I resisted bakery rolls twice at work. And that was in June. Thank you. This was in February. And she was saying to me, I've lost 20 pounds since January. No, this was in March. Since January 30th, after gaining, no matter how careful I was, eating low carb. I'm wearing clothes that I had put away because I couldn't fit into them anymore. Thank you so much. I do still need to subscribe when I have the time to think through that. Whatever. Good morning, Kirsten. This was my first week of some noticeable changes with weight and cravings. Thank you so much for all of your help. The trio, my glucose morning sugars went from 120 down to the 190s. There you go. That's just a sample of the testimonies that are in the highlight bubble at the top of my Instagram page. Okay. So Suzette, I apologize. I glitched just a tiny bit there. She's talking about the glucose product. It says take it 3 times a day. Don't worry about whether or not you're taking it with food. You're looking to get the trace minerals in your body. So 3 times a day, spread it out so that your body is constantly being filled in. Those gaps are being filled in with the trace minerals. And then the other 2, you just take twice a day. So these are not fat soluble. These do not have to be taken with food, even though, they're always going to recommend, right? There's always going to be a recommendation. Take this with food, take this with, and some of them have a meaning, like vitamin D is fat soluble. You need to take your vitamin D K2 with something to eat that has fat in it to help it to actually process, right? But these are not that. So the reason why they say to take this glucose one 30 minutes before you eat, does anybody know why they tell you that? Nat, hi. Oh, Kristen, you're saying hi to Kristen. Well, you also got the book. You also told us from Maria. Oh, you got the book from Maria Emmerich. Which one? Good for you. Yes, yes, yes. She's a wealth of information, you guys. I teach a lot of her recipes because she's very creative. Cindy, let me answer that. I'll be very diplomatic. So Suzette, just to wrap that up, you do not need to eat 3 times a day in order to take this 3 times a day. That's as clear as I can get on that one. Okay. And the reason why they say take it a half an hour before meal, because it's mitigating your appetite, because there are actually ingredients that help with appetite control and sugar cravings. So they're just trying to help you out a little bit or a lot of it. That's why I get a lot of testimonies about sugar cravings being diminished. Why she said she had passed up donuts twice in one day or in 1 week at work, because all of a sudden it didn't matter as much. And I'm telling you, how do I say this? This was my key to my Italian world in helping me to be able to turn around, change out my ingredients, change out my recipes, make my pantry look different. My pantry right over there that I'll take you into this week in the challenge in that Facebook group, Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women. This was my Italian piece. I needed my cravings to sit down and shut up. I needed my food noise to back off. That's what I needed. I didn't understand all of the other things that were happening at the time. Visceral belly fat, like what is that? Like insulin is a hormone. What? Like I knew none of this. But now I understand why it did. And now this makes sense to me. These make perfect sense to me now. So if I don't come on and tell people, curbs appetite. Yes, Brenda. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so Cindy, first I'm going to answer your question. Does it interfere with HBP scripts? I'm going to be very, very diplomatic because I am not a doctor. You always need to check with your doctor, your healthcare provider, to make sure that there are no, contradictions. Having said that, I do have testimonies of people where their BP came down because, again, if you back up, if you go back as to why it's high, and if insulin resistance is underneath that, if insulin resistance is the driving force, I'm just saying. And so in my understanding and in my opinion, I haven't had anybody tell me that there has been an interaction. But again, I do not have letters after my name. So I always want people to be, I've had people take these to their doctor. They have taken the bottles to their doctor to make sure. And I'm like, you go. That's exactly like if that's what somebody needs to do, because there's no way that I can know the scripts that people are on. Okay. So anyway, so to my knowledge, no, but you have to do your own thing, right? And do you need to be tested? Tammy, that is such a good question. So this is why we actually don't know why we're insulin resistant. Okay. So the short answer is no, you don't need to be tested. However, if they did test us, we would know sooner because I was gestational diabetic with my first baby. I was hypoglycemic with my second baby, and I had no idea that insulin resistance was even a terminology, much less the fact that that was me. I had no idea that that's what that meant. They literally said, I tested my blood 4 times a day during my pregnancy with my first baby. I get done with my first, literally, I deliver him. They within, I don't know, a couple of hours, they test my blood. They come in, they prick my finger, they test my blood. They go, good to go. Fireworks on Instagram. Good to go. Bye. No information, no further advice, nothing, zero, nothing, nada, fini. I go in, I have my second baby, hypoglycemic. Now I passed out in the shower. My sugars are too low. Same coin, 2 sides. Same coin, 2 sides. Nothing, nada, nothing, nobody, nothing. Right? However, if I would have had fasting insulin tests done, and insulin is a hormone, I could have dealt with that long before. Like, I waited 20 years, you guys, to do anything about it. And I did it mainly because my mom wouldn't stop bugging me and my weight was going in the wrong direction yet again. So you don't have to get tested. However, if you did want to get tested, you would ask for a fasting insulin test, but they don't do that. What they do is they wait. They wait and they wait and they wait. And all of a sudden, oh my goodness, the sugar in your blood is too high. But what you didn't know is that your insulin was high for years, probably before that. And then all of a sudden, overnight, out of nowhere, out of the blue, you're pre-type 2. That's what happens. That's the story that I hear over and over and over and over, times 1,000 in my inbox, texting, Zoom consultations, phone calls. Again, why didn't anybody tell me this? Why didn't they say anything to me? They kept telling me my numbers were fine, my labs were fine. And that's because the labs are generally, and this is, I shouldn't be so blanketed in general. That's not fair. But most of the time, they're only pulling blood tests that are showing glucose levels in the blood. Well, your insulin is working really well for a very long time, keeping that, getting it into the cell, shuttling it, driving, grab the glucose, get it into the cell, driving, grabbing the glucose, get it into the cell. And it's doing a really good job of this for a very long time until all of a sudden the cell goes, the door's closed. We are full. We are done. No more. And so now it's just going to create more insulin, et cetera. So That's the frustrating piece of the puzzle. So it's a fasting insulin test. Obviously, I get very, very, very passionate about that. I just cannot even believe that such simple information is not given to us, especially when it's connected to our ability to lose fat. It ticks me off. It really ticks me off. I had no hope that I was ever going to lose weight again. I had no hope because I had been, I literally lost weight for about a half a minute in my 20s. Half a minute. It was right around the time my dad died, interestingly enough, for his funeral. So about a half a minute, I lost weight. Nope, that's not true. 2 times in my life. My senior year, the summer of my senior year, I did it not a very wise way. I would not recommend how I lost weight. I did do some Richard Simmons audios. It wasn't even the video. My girlfriend gave me a cassette tape, I think, of Richard Simmons. Was it Dancing to the Oldies? Whatever that was. Does anybody remember the Richard Simmons? Anyway, Sweating to the Oldies. Sweating to the Oldies. I did Richard Simmons, and then I did some other supplements that I shouldn't have been taking. And I lost weight in my senior year. And then I went on, I got married, and I had babies. And immediately I had weight issues. I gained like at least 60 pounds with my first one. I was gestational diabetic. I thought I was never going to lose that weight again. Then the year that my dad died, I had previously, about 6 months before he died, I think I just kind of like starved myself or something. And I lost a bunch of weight. And so I actually did look good for his funeral. And that was about a half a minute. Then he died, game over, like I'm devastated and blah, blah, blah. So in my 30s, my weight just increases. In my 40s, and I'm doing everything white with my kids. In my 40s, it's getting worse. And then that's when my mother steps in and won't leave me alone. I honestly had a moment in my life where I stood on my 20-acre farm, and I remember exactly what I was wearing. And this was in my upper 30s before my mom started bugging me. And I actually had this conversation in my head. And I'm so grateful that I didn't allow it. Not all of the thoughts that come to you are yours. You don't have to keep them. You can tell them to just shove off. And that's really what I did, not knowing that that's what I was doing. But I'm so grateful that I did, because the conversation in my head was, maybe I'm supposed to just embrace this whole obesity thing. Like, Italian family, why not? And type 2 is just going to be normal. And for whatever reason in that moment, I was like, no. And then I kind of went on with my life, just having said no inside of me. And then answers did come. Answers showed up, and I had zero idea. Like nothing. So I'm just telling you, like, that's, so you take thyroid script. Is it safe? In my understanding, yes. Again, always check with your doctor. However, one of the thyroid hormones are converted in the liver. Most people don't know that. So the thyroid gets blamed for a lot of stuff. Like he's not a doctor, he's a scientist. Gary Brecka will talk about how we blame the thyroid and we kill it off, even though it was only 20% responsible for something. So your thyroid hormones are converted in your liver, and one of the trio is for the liver. And for anybody who's grabbing the trio, just to let you know, you can reach out to me and say, you were on your live this morning talking about the 3 supplements, the trio. I would like a cart for that. Will you get me a cart? And then tell me something specific that you might need to consider. Like, some people have such high inflammation, and you've heard me talk about the turmeric, or your cortisol is really off the charts, and you're like, I think I need to take a look at the ashwagandha. And then there are some of you that are like, I don't know how I will ever, on God's green earth, transition my carbohydrates. How will I ever stop eating carbs? And you need a carb blocker. And that was me. I didn't know cortisol. I didn't know nothing about cortisol. I was never thinking about inflammation because I was taking ibuprofen. So what did I care? That was me just telling you. So for me, it was carbs. And because I thought, how am I ever going to stop my Italian food ways? Okay. So I had carb blocker in my pocket so much for like a good 3-4 years that when I would take out my winter coat in October in Minnesota, I still had carb blocker in my pockets from March when I put my coat away. And that happened year after year after year in the bottom of my purse, in my pockets. I mean, I found it everywhere, but it was very helpful because it helped me to navigate social settings. That was a very important tool for me. And I will talk about this stuff in the group this week in the challenge. So if you're in the challenge, you're going to get to hear a lot about all this stuff all week long. 2:00 Central Standard Time every single day, Monday through Friday. I'll take you into my pantry, my fridge. We'll make a recipe. We'll do all the things. We'll talk ingredient trade outs. We'll do all the things so that you can feel equipped for July. And then in August, we're going to do it again. And then in September, we're going to do it again. And you're going to have a track to run on. And this is our 14th one. Sweating to the oldies. You had babies when you told to eat for 2 and to gain the weight. Movie mama. Oh my gosh. That was so me. When I got pregnant with my first, I mean, obviously there was no surprise I was gestational diabetic. No surprise. I was like, permission granted. OMG, eating for 2. Yes. How did I learn all of this? Tara, such a good question. So you had the Richard Simmons too. That's so funny. I will answer the sleeping question here in just a second, Suzette. That's another good question. Because when you do turn back your insulin resistance, you can, your sleeping will eventually get better as you continue to turn it back. Because again, it's a hormonal thing that's waking you up in the middle of the night or 4 a.m. How did I learn all this? Well, when my father passed away, like I was home visiting with my 3 kids, and I had literally been told that type 2 was nothing other than genetic. I was actually turned down to give a kidney to my father, who was on dialysis for two years, by the University of Minnesota. I was a match, but I was not allowed to give him a kidney because he was 35 when he got type 2. And that's when he had me. That was the year he had me. And so therefore, because it's genetic, I was not allowed to give one of my kidneys because surely that was going to be my direction. So when he passed away and I was home at his house, the morning after he died, and he was not in the hospital, he was just having a dialysis session and he just up and died. His heart stopped at the cafeteria in the hospital where he was having the session. So he wasn't inpatient is my point. And the next morning I get up and my mom is crying about the fact that she would complain about all of his meds. John, your meds are everywhere. John, it's so messy. John, get them off the kitchen table. John, she was frustrated because he had literally a lazy Susan full of meds. And so the next morning I wake up and my mom is just crying and crying. And she's like, why did I complain about all of his meds? Why did I make a big deal? It didn't matter, blah, blah, blah. Well, that kind of stuck in my head. And I remember then going on and having the thought process. So why, if he was on all of those meds and this isn't a terminal diagnosis, why is he dead? Like I thought modern medicine was like God's gift to us, right? What do you mean it doesn't heal? It doesn't turn back? I mean, I was naive, you guys. I'm not trying to pretend I wasn't naive, but I wanted to know why it didn't do something amazing. So I feel like that opened up my mind is what it did. And I began to actually start to research much later, because I was 30 when he dies. I'm in my 40s by the time my mom says anything to me. I'm in my upper 40s when I start taking targeted supplementation, which is the trio that I talk about all the time. 3 supplements that have the 3 ingredients that help with insulin sensitivity. I don't know. I don't even believe they're going to work. I don't know why they would work. I'm just doing it to pacify my mom. And then in my 50s, I start to go, what is all of this? And I start to pay attention to people like Maria Emmerich, Dr. Carey, Dr. Eric Berg, etc. And I start to research it because I'm like, why is this working in my what's happening? And I did the exact same thing with adaptogenic herbs. I talk about the purple packet all the time. I had zero idea that adaptogenic herbs help your body adapt to stress. They support your adrenals. Your adrenals regulate your hormones. And when your ovaries are done dealing with your hormones, your adrenals take over. All I knew was I had one person in my world say to me, and she was a naturopath, the way you go through menopause is the way you treat your adrenals. Okay, noted. That's all I did. And then I was like taking adaptogenic herbs and they were balancing out my hormones. And I'm like, I don't understand why, blah, 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 blah. That's a whole different conversation. But I did the same thing with this. And that's why, so she's saying like, how did you learn all of this? I just began to study. I began to study and I kept myself from talking about this for a very long time. I talked about these locally here in Minnesota. Oops. Bummer. I'm going to have to jump off here in just a few minutes. But anyway, my alarm. I'm so grateful for my alarm. I started talking about these locally to people. And the first time that I had, it was a guy. I work with a lot of women now because I've chosen that as my demographic because I feel like I can actually really serve you well by helping you to lose the weight you're looking to lose, by changing the glasses that you're looking at it through, because nobody else is talking about it. I don't know. I think I just closed out my Instagram. I think I was gone there for a minute, Instagram. Sorry about that. So I feel like I can help. I can help you feel like you can get yourself back again and not be so resigned to what I almost resigned myself to, which was a life of obesity and sickness, because I thought maybe it was normal, because that was my world. A lot of obesity and type 2 in my Italian family. So when I shared it, I had a male customer who said to me, and again, I never make claims, but he literally said to me two things. He said, I need to order more of my diabetes pills. That's what he said, not me. And the second thing was he texted me in a parking lot as he left a doctor's office one day. And he said, I am so angry. I'm so mad at the answers that they're giving me that do not help. And I'm so mad that I can actually do this. And he was actually taking a mixture. He actually wasn't taking this completely. He was taking a couple of these, and then he was taking the daily, that is it has 3-in-1. It has a multivitamin, a multi-mineral, and a phytonutrient. 3-in-1, that's a daily that you take twice a day. So he was taking that. And I have stories on that one too for people that have had, because you're filling in nutritional deficiencies. So I had to figure out why that was work, whatever. And he was just angry. And I went, because again, I'm the one that avoided type 2. I'm not the one with the labs. You are the one with the labs. You're the one that texts me and tells me my morning sugars went from 180s down to the 150s and I lost 14 pounds in 2 months. I've been trying for 3 years with my doctor and meds. I could get my A1C down, but I couldn't lose a pound to save my life. I'm like, game on. So that's a lot of where this started for me, in studying and going, this, not to be dramatic, but I'm about to be super dramatic. This is criminal. This is ridiculous. This is so ridiculous that we bow at the feet of PHA, if you know what I'm talking about, because I can't say it on the tickety talk. We bow at the feet at PHA, and then we go to bed at night feeling good somehow that all we did was write scripts all day long, and we didn't tell people that insulin is a hormone and that this is a hormonal conversation. We didn't tell women that they could actually turn things around and lose fat. We didn't tell people that God gave us answers. Ticks me off. That's why I come on here every day. Game on! Because it's a platform that if I talk in code, I can help people. But anyway, so what you can do, and again, I do have to the purple packet, Lisa. Pam, tell me if you're wanting information on the trio. And when I get off, I will get that to you. Suzette, not sleeping well. When you turn back your insulin resistance, you will begin to get better sleep over time. However, I do have things that help. I have a magnesium blend that it's not in my line. I purchase it from Amazon, so you can get it off of Amazon. I can post a picture of it in my stories. I'll post a picture of it in my stories so you can go and get it. It's a blend. It has really helped a lot of people. I've been thinking about, I have not done TikTok Shop at all. I've not done anything on TikTok Shop, but I know that it's on there. And I think to myself, I could probably help a lot of people by recommending it. Anyway, that is helping people sleep. But I also take ashwagandha. So I'm taking one in the morning and then one before I go to bed. Ashwagandha helps with sleep, stress, and mood. And if you are wanting information on the trio plus the ashwagandha, just let me know. I will customize a cart for you. You can reach out to me in my messages on Instagram, my messenger on Facebook. Tickety Talk, you have to kind of jump over to Instagram, or you can go to, there is on my profile, up there. There is on my profile, you will see you'll see a link. I don't know if I can say that word. You do have insulin resistance and all the symptoms. How do you start the trio? Sorry, you're just watching. No, you're totally good. So the best way for you is to literally, because I am going to jump off, go directly to my inbox here on Instagram and just say, I was on your live. Will you send me a trio cart or tell me about the trio? And I will send, I have a 4-minute video on the trio. If you want the video, say, I need that video and that cart thing. And I'll customize things for people. So sometimes people are doing the trio plus cortisol. Sometimes people are doing the trio plus turmeric for their inflammation because they actually need a turmeric that's absorbable. I'm just telling you, they all aren't. It's actually not a very absorbable ingredient, but this one is 45 times more absorbable. And it can really bring down your inflammation. Sometimes people need carb blocker. So I want to be able to customize. Okay, do you know how to get into I would love to give you the video. Do you know how to get into my inbox on Instagram? Do you know how to do that? You're not sure how you stumbled onto this live. Welcome, Rebecca. But you're very curious. Please send me info about who and what I'm following here. I have an appointment with your doctor early August. I would love a list of questions to ask her. Thank you. You are welcome. And Rebecca, I will do that. I will reach out to you because on Facebook, all of my comments stay. So I can do that. And then Lisa, I'll answer your question on the purple packet. And then I have to jump. I'm late for a thing. The replay will be here, Rebecca, on Facebook. So you can come right back here the minute I post it and rewatch and get the information that you're looking for. Okay. Because today we actually did go back to the basics of why does insulin resistance keep you fat? Why is it keeping you fat? And that is the basics. And I was doing that today very specifically because in the Facebook group, Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women, there is a challenge coming up starting today. 5-day free challenge. I do it every single month, 2:00 Central Standard Time. I think you would really like it. Ingredient trade outs, pantry, fridge, all the stuff. You're so welcome, Rebecca. So the purple packet, Lisa, the purple packet actually has 3 supplements inside of it. It has 3 adaptogenic herbs and all of your 8 B vitamins time released. Most women do not know that when you're deficient in certain B vitamins, there can be anxiousness and sadness. And I'm careful with those words if you know what I mean. So anxiousness and sadness. And so adaptogenic herbs, what they do is they come in and they support your adrenals, which sit on top of your kidneys and regulate your hormones. So if all somebody wanted was energy and mental clarity so that you could at least even begin to think about trading out ingredients, so that you could at least even begin to think about trading out a recipe, this is a great place to start. The purple packet, you'll see it on my site. My site is my first last name.com, kirstenliebelt.com. Now, if somebody wants to use it more regularly so that you can get a good level of support for your adrenals, then I would say you take one in the morning and you take one after lunch. Over time, that's helping to support your adrenals. That's what I very unwittingly, unknowingly, no clue, I started taking it for my brain fog, and I went, well, I kind of like being able to multitask. This is a bonus. I don't feel so vulnerable with the younger girls that I'm working with in corporate. And so I started doing it more regularly, not knowing I was doing myself a favor. Through a course of events of a surgery and questioning warm sensations in my body, whatever, never having had a hot flash, I go, oh my gosh, this is helping me to balance my hormones. I went back on it, and then I'm 59. I sailed through menopause. I was told the way that I take care of my adrenals is how I'm going to go through menopause. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I never had a hot flash, and I'm 59. So I'm just telling you, there are natural answers that God gave us. Okay, Lisa. Well, absolutely. I can get you that information too. But I do hope that helps you. And I'll be back again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So in the meantime, always reach out to me. My contact information is out there for a reason, so that people can say, listen, I was on your live and I need a cart, and I will get you a customized cart. Like, just tell me what's going on so that you can get things that you need and you don't get things that you don't need. Okay. And if you need hope and encouragement right now, take 5 minutes and jump over to my Instagram, Kirsten Liebelt. Pink highlight bubble at the top. Look through the testimonies for yourself. Don't take my word for anything. Look at the testimonies for yourself of the weight loss and the sugars coming down and the fasting insulin and all of these things. Do it for yourself. Consider it like a 5-minute self-care moment, because a confused mind does nothing. And if you're confused and you do nothing, then what have I even helped you with today? Then I haven't helped. So bye, movie mama. You have a wonderful day. Yeah, crazy amounts of inflammation, little chick's mom. I know you're a hot mess. Please reach out to me in my because when I leave my Instagram, when I shut it down, which I'm going to do right now, all of the messages go away and I can't see them. So you have to get up into my inbox in order for me to actually converse with you. So, all right, movie mama. See you later. Have a good day, you guys. You guys are amazing. You guys are so much fun, and you make my day so, so special. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you guys. Have a good day. All right, Facebook, see you later. Let me know what you need, and I will be checking out your comments very soon.